Never
I don't
been
want to
through
say
any
like
hard
a
time.
lot of the ecom founders, but some of the ecom founders, they live in like a fairy tale world where they just think, I just put in money here, I have this agency here, they're then going to take care of it and stuff. So the more sophisticated people, they have the most understanding. So for example, like a Davey from the audio stuff, like people that have been in the game for long, they understand everything. They understand like ups and lows. They understand where to invest, what to do and stuff. But people that haven't been in the game for so long, or it's like their first brand, and maybe they've been a bit lucky and now they're at 8-figure run rate or something, they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, and they haven't paid a VAT bill and they're about to get fucking audited and ended. Plenty of those. If you're a media buyer, creative strategist, or a brand owner and you haven't tried Foreplay, you're missing out. And no, we're not talking about that kind of Foreplay. Foreplay lets you save Facebook ads and TikTok ads in a super easy to use board forever. So if you've ever sent a client or a team member or just a mate an ad link from the ad library and you click the link and it disappeared, then this is for you. So a few reasons why I actually use this myself and love it. First reason is discovery. The discovery tool is actually genuinely better than the Facebook ads library and the TikTok ad library native platforms. You can search by keywords or even search by brand or industries. And when you save those ads, you can actually download MP4 files of them. So for example, if you're creating a lot of presentations and examples in your day-to-day work, then this makes that a shitload easier. And as well as that, you can actually save all the ads into super easy to use and navigate boards. So you can organize things however you like. For example, myself, I organize brand ideas I've got, so things I'm seeing from other brands. If you ran an agency, for example, you could do ideas for clients, you could send things to clients, you could have ideas with your team, however you like. Super easy to use and super intuitive. So if you're curious about how you can use Foreplay and start getting into your day-to-day life and business, like you should be, because I genuinely have been using it for the past 6 months, and it's one of maybe 2 or 3 tools that me and the team actually rely on to scale Space Goods to the moon and every brand that you're working on, then you should click the link in the bio to sign up to a trial. And you can sign up to a 1-week free trial, and if you love it, which I think you will, because I do, and loads of my mates and colleagues and team members use it as well, then you can sign up for 15% off the first 3 months with the code MIDNIGHT. Cheers. Right, we're back with episode, I think 69, you'll probably know, of the Midnight Pod, with the not co-host, sometimes co-host, Oliver Hudson, and our first German guest, I think, ever, Carl, how do I say the second name?
Weische.
I was going to say Weische or something previously, so yeah, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, good to have you on. Good to have you on. As always, I've done no fucking research. I'm wearing a fully head-to-toe sponsored Sanucci outfit, which was sent to me very kindly by Fred. I don't normally wear Space Goods Sanucci, but tonight we're doing that. You've done some research. We know each other from Twitter, which I feel like everyone does that's been on the pod, and they're like internet friends, and then they become in-person people that you actually meet, which is always good. I guess the first question for me, and you'll have loads more specific ones, is just, what the fuck do you do and how did you get into it? I know you're in the CRO space, but that's like honestly all I really know.
Yeah, good
question. I'd love to know the story.
First of all, thanks so much for having me. Really start enjoying these like in-person pods and conversations because it like flows way more than it's like online Zoom shit. So basically, yeah, my name is Carl, 24 years old, born and raised in Germany. I started with this whole like online marketing e-commerce thing when I was around 16. Back then I just wanted to like make some money on the side, so I like started buying and reselling Yeezys, Supreme, Jordans, all that shit. And then I also got into like this whole topic of psychology in the beginning because I wanted to understand how can I be happier, how can I motivate myself and all that. So I kind of fell into like the rabbit hole of Tony Robbins videos, these like motivational videos on YouTube. And then I also started like reading books about psychology and everything. And I found it like quite interesting because I always used to read something and then apply it and kind of see like an impact from it. Same with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the books like How to Win Friends and Influence People or that kind of books, right? And then you apply it and you're like, holy fuck, this shit works, right? So that's what I did at like 16, 17, 18. Then I went abroad to New Zealand, came back, didn't know what to do because I wanted to be like an entrepreneur, but I didn't know how can you start that. So I started studying. So I started my bachelor at the Leuphana, which is like a small university close to my city. And I started studying business administration and e-commerce. So you could actually study e-commerce, right? But then you would
I've never heard of that before.
It's crazy. And then you like in the lectures and they talk about stuff from like 2014, right? Like Shopify wasn't even around and shit. And then they talk about some like really outdated stuff. Whatever. So I still wanted to kind of become an entrepreneur. So I took one of my friends at the university and we would found an online store, right? Because we just wanted to like get started into e-com. So we would always buy and sell these like phone accessories, like wireless chargers, phone cases. And then we had like an online store, did some influencer marketing, tried out everything like Google, Facebook, Pinterest, SEO, whatever. And then we would go on Amazon and then Amazon FBA. And then that's basically what we did for like 2 years. And at the end of that period, I met Lars. And he's now the co-founder for my agency. And back then he was a freelancer for conversion rate optimization. So he also had like his fashion brand, and he was also like really deep in psychology, NLP and everything. And he used to be a coach, right? Coach for like CEOs, entrepreneurs and all that stuff. And then he got into e-commerce. And basically we worked together on my store, right? And I was like, yeah, whatever. How the fuck is this supposed to work? You switch around some stuff on the store and then you sell more. You switch designs in the email and then you sell more. Like, okay, whatever, let's try it out. And then it was really fun and really interesting. And it felt like two things that I really liked were coming together. So like selling stuff online and then like psychology, understanding of how people work in like conversion rate optimization, which is basically just applying this understanding of human behavior and how you can influence that to get more sales. And yeah, now I'm sitting here on the pod with you two and basically run an agency where we deliver that as a service.
How did you get into being full-time? Like you said you were 16, now you're 24. That's a long period. Yeah. When did it go from being something you were interested in to like you actually, were you going to uni? Was that everyone, you mentioned uni, but like did you drop out? You finished that?
Interesting question. So we started the first thoughts about starting a service-based business together early 2020, because we started working together end of 2019, right? And then 2020, COVID happened, lockdowns happened.
Boom.
All that shit. So we basically spent 24/7 together on FaceTime and Zoom, right? Just like hanging out, talking shit, working together. And then we had the idea to turn it into a service, because he was always the brain and I was always the executor, right? So it worked like really well, us working together. So we had the idea of turning it into a service. And then August 2020, so around 2.5, 3 years-ish ago, we had our first client, right? And back then we would build websites, do copywriting, do landing pages, do audits, basically everything that would make money in the beginning. And I was still in my 3rd semester back then. So it was kind of like a side hustle thing, but it paid for everything. And then I decided to still finish my bachelor, because I don't like canceling stuff. I don't like, whenever I start something, I have the mindset that I need to finish, even if I don't like it anymore. So that's why I decided to...
That's going to get clipped.
So that's why I decided to like pull through and still finish it. And yeah, during that period, we just like continued everything that we were doing for like 1.5 years. And then early 2022, it started popping off. And then we switched the service from like doing everything for everybody to having like a really niche down service, which is like A/B testing for big brands. So we really niche down on our audience and clients, and also like the service that we provide. And that's how we were more able to kind of turn it into a factory service, right? So nothing like a one-time all-over project, but like a really step-by-step approach that you have to do. Same with like what you guys are probably doing. Like every time you have somebody for TikTok ads, you have like a strategist, then you have somebody for the scripts, then you get the video, then you have an editor, then you cut it, and then you have a media buyer, right? That's process. So we basically build those kind of processes, and that's what enabled us to like scale up then. And I finished my studies August 2021, and after that basically was full-time with the agency.
How far did you go with actual like e-commerce yourself before agency? Because I always debate like, he's an agency owner, you're an agency guy. Like, why did you go into service stuff instead of sticking with actual building stores, building brands? Because I guess you're on the other end of the spectrum now. Or was that just how it happened? Or was there like a decision where you just saw more opportunity?
Multiple factors playing into that. So if I go into the store that we ran, we had the benefit that the bigger sister of my friend was an influencer, right? So she always helped us with like doing stories, doing influencer marketing, and that's how we would sell for the online store. Back then was the first project. We didn't know shit about marketing, running ads, whatever. So we wasted a bunch of money on Facebook, Google, and basically everywhere. But we never really scaled it on the online store. And then we got into Amazon, and that was the first time that we consistently made sales, right? And then we scaled that up. That was pretty good to like to the part where we sold out mid-December. So basically in the highest point in like Q4, we sold out because we obviously also didn't know how to plan ahead and forecast and like get new units from our supplier from China and send it to Amazon beforehand. So we sold out mid-December, and we completely lost all the rankings, the bestsellers badge and everything. And that's why we completely lost momentum on Amazon. And it took us like 2 months to get back on the platform again. And by then, like the competitor took over the niche. So we never were able to like kind of scale it back up to again where it was before. So we lost momentum, and I was also annoyed from that. And also to that point, to be fair, we never made any money that we took out of the business. So it was always like really, we sell 1,000 units, we buy 2,000 with the money, right?
Yeah. That's how it is being a brand owner.
It's crazy.
That's how people
I
have
respect
agencies.
everybody that's doing it, but I was like, it was so capital binding.
Yeah.
And we did it for like 2 years, and we never took like a cent out of the business, right? We went like to dinner like 3 times or something, right? So basically like $150 over like 2 years. So we never paid us out and stuff. And then I saw the opportunity to like start a service-based business with Lars, where I was like, okay, he has like a 2-year track record working as a freelancer for that. It's like 0 capital, and it's like straight money because we don't have employees, we don't have an office, we don't have shit. We may have like 2 softwares for $50, but we have like a 99% margin on like every dollar that we make. So it was like a pretty easy decision, kind of from like losing the momentum in the e-com brand to just like selling the stock off to then transition to the service-based business.
Because I met you in March. Was it March 2022?
Yeah,
Dubai?
March in Dubai.
Was that just after it started to really get momentum?
Yeah.
Where were you at? Because you had about between 15 and 20 people, I think, then, didn't you? Something maybe that around there.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've now like doubled that. Well, probably more than doubled that in revenue, but doubled the headcount. How fast did it go from like? How fast did it kind of reach that point of the 15 to 20 people? And how like what was the key parts of that journey? Like any kind of key tipping points to really get that momentum?
So from August 2020 to around September, October 2021, it was pretty slow, right? So around September 2021 was like the first point where it like grew a bit. Before that, it was pretty consistent, right? So around that time, we decided to switch the service from doing everything as like one-time projects to a retainer-based service. So if you do one-time projects, it's like month to month to month. And the first of the month, I don't know how much money we're going to make. It's based on like how many clients we get in. So we were like, we cannot grow an agency, we cannot grow a company if we don't know how much money we're going to make this or next month. So that's why we decided to switch to like a retainer-based service, which is like this A/B testing for bigger brands, which enabled us to have like kind of foreseeable income for like the next 3 months or like next 3 to 6 months, depending on the contract length. So based on that, we were able to like put employees in and basically hire people for the first time. And then I think we had around like 5 people like end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And end of 2021, I started going on Twitter. And I basically, for the
Twitter
first time...
changes everything.
Bro, for real. Twitter is insane.
Especially at that period. It's a lot more saturated now, but like early 2022 was...
Yeah.
Twitter got saturated.
I didn't know what Twitter was until September 21.
Yeah.
And then Nima retweeted my first ever thread. And I got like 3,000 followers. And then from then... I mean, I don't have an agency, but if I had something to sell, I'd have made a lot of money from it.
Yeah.
It's a crazy platform.
Twitter's insane. So it got really saturated because Wizard of Ecom made it really big for service providers.
Yeah.
But that was only from like Q3, Q4 last year. But before that, it was amazing.
Yeah, you're just ripping those threads.
Huh?
You're ripping those threads.
Yeah.
Carl does CRO.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it had the perfect window of opportunity for us. So it's also a bit due to luck and like taking this opportunity, because there was no like one big person who was owning the space. It's not like there was a Nick Shackelford for like Facebook creatives kind of. There was nobody owning the space. So we saw the opportunity in like going in there and growing a big following to be like the main person for CRO.
We did the same with TikTok.
Yeah.
I stopped doing it after a while because I just haven't had time. But yeah, we did the same.
You now have a ghostwriter on LinkedIn, just shilling.
Yeah,
fluff.
LinkedIn is just Twitter as well. LinkedIn's now Twitter, the new Twitter, I think.
I saw your post the other day on LinkedIn about dusk, and I was just laughing.
That just wasn't written by me.
Yeah, definitely wasn't, because it was all wrong.
Yeah, it's just like it was. I feel like LinkedIn is the new Twitter though. Yeah, Twitter did get too. It's there's more. There's so many people putting content out there now on the topics that.
Both platforms have crazy reach though compared to like Instagram.
Yeah,
It's
like,
insane, yeah.
It's mad. Like I've had a fucking tweet get 1 million impressions. I think it was about a girl or some bullshit. It wasn't about ecom. But
It's all the red pill stuff that gets a lot of impressions.
yeah, money Twitter side, definitely. But we saw the same thing. Like it took us ages to get Saw to 6-figure monthly run rate, but it was so fast to get For You there because it was different. Doing inbound, getting inbound leads is such an easier sale process as well compared to, because they're already if they get on the call with you, they're ready to go pretty much all the time unless they can't afford it.
I've just clocked that For You is called because of the For You page.
Yeah.
I never understood why before. I thought it was a shit name.
Everyone thought I've had multiple people.
Now
say
it
that
makes
to me, and
sense.
they'll
It just
explain
clicked.
like it's a good name.
The For You page.
But yeah, it was a golden era just around that Geek Out Dubai period.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So yeah, you just obviously ripped that, and then I guess you just connected, and now you do a lot more speaking things now, aren't you?
So yeah, the networking and Twitter both together were like brother and sister working for me, right? So they went like really hand in hand, and that's happening soon. That's like the main driver for business. So until this day, we still get our clients inbound. So we never outbounded clients. Like the only thing was just like if I was doing CRO for brand XYZ on Twitter, which still led to them DMing me and wanting to like book a call or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only inbound leads coming from like social media, like Twitter, YouTube or whatever, or like the network. So us starting that like end of 2021, early 2022 really was the game changer, because before that, for like 2 years, we basically just sat behind our computer, just like working, not doing LinkedIn, not doing social media, just like, yeah, why the fuck should I be on Instagram? Because we didn't understand the value that personal brand had.
Yeah, I think I never wanted to have a personal brand, and I still don't intentionally have one, but like I think it's just a net negative to not have any. Like everyone should have some sort of personal brand now. It's just an online CV really, and like, yeah, I don't know. Like even people I know that used to say they would never put themselves out there have started to clock onto it. Like, wait a minute. Like if it's not for new business, it's for like, I don't know, investors.
It's a crazy
girls,
digital real estate
anything
that you can have for anything that you want to do.
Yeah, literally, because like if you've got a decent Twitter or YouTube or just online presence, someone just Googles you, they can just they get it. They get who you are in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's credibility.
Exactly. Like even just people that follow you, mutuals, it's like credibility.
And it's really weird when you think about it, but you yourself instantly have more respect for somebody if they have like 20, 30, 100k followers, even though it's just like a weird number on like an Instagram profile, but you're like, holy fuck, he's like special or something.
Do you think with that, like I've thought about this, do you think some people, not you, but just anyone, they just, because they convince themselves that they're not an authority, they act like they are, even if they're not necessarily one, and then by default they become one, because do you know what I mean? If I don't really put that sort of content out, but I guess if I started tomorrow putting content out about claiming X numbers and on a certain platform and no one was talking about it, like you just, if you're willing to say shit that people aren't, kind of like the people who are speaking about off camera, like there's a tactic for everything. Like if you own that. that
I mean,
space.
I think like you can do it, but you cannot sustain it for long because the community is always going to cleanse itself. So I had like an interesting conversation with another friend about this, of like the same we talked off camera, and he was like, you always see this over a time period of like 1 to 2 years, that people come out of nowhere. They are an authority in the niche. They make a lot of waves and noise, but the real people who are in the business for the long term talk behind the scenes, and at some part, like everything will crumble.
So true. I've seen it happen a million times.
Yeah.
To trip themselves
So many people that were an authority that I used to look up to, like in the e-com D2C community, that you can't even find on the internet now.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
what's
the
happened.
interesting thing you also see is that if you connect the network with like real entrepreneurs that are like in it for long and they want to achieve something for long, they are like the most humble, genuine, nicest guys ever. And that's kind of like one thing that gives it away for me. If somebody is too pushy or weird or flexing on everybody, stunning on everybody, it's like
Yeah, like a general
big,
rule of
big
thumb
red flag.
for like money Twitter is actually rich people don't talk about how much money they have all the time.
Yeah. And a
People,
friend of
people
mine,
that are doing that,
Yeah.
it's a big red flag to
a
anyone
friend of
that
mine
doesn't
said
think
this
so.
too, like, why the fuck would you want everyone to know how much money you make?
It's pure cap.
Yeah.
The amount of cap on Twitter is shocking. And I know for a fact some people that claim to be multimillionaires are just so far from it, which is fine, but just don't pretend you are, because who are you impressing? It's just crazy. There's so many stories. I'm ready to expose everyone, but it's just, yeah, the amount of shit. We speak about this in like group chats all the time. It'd be like, this guy's pure cap. It's just, it's this strange culture. But yeah, you are right. I think it works for a year or two, particularly like course sellers, people that have like paid memberships or whatever it is. Again, naming their names, I'm thinking of a few.
Because they never go deep or below surface level, and they always run out of things to say after a period of time. Like if you actually get
Just shock tactics, isn't it?
Yeah, like they can go surface level and they can give like generalizations or platitudes on something, but when you dig into like the weeds of and technicality of things, then you just expose them.
And it's also that maybe like the regular audience falls for it, but the people who have reached the success that they are claiming to have can call out the bullshit, because you know what it takes to get to point X in the business with like what you have to know, the employees, the management, or whatever else, right? And the operations. And if they claim it, you can call it out. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
like
100%.
people that haven't been to that point in the business, how are they supposed to call it out?
Yeah.
And what I also find is that a huge red flag is if they make money with the information. So like course sellers, coachings, all that stuff. If they make money with the information, that's like a huge red flag, because like why not implement it yourself? And the other thing is that if they're, what you said, never really technical or really
in deep on a topic.
About like what they're doing, then it's also like if they're always keeping it surface level, then it's also a red flag.
Yeah, that's how we got growth on there, just giving away the strategy in depth, like really in depth, and then selling the implementation to the people who want to buy
like
it.
the Hormozy model.
Yeah, it's just like such a good way to grow. There's no, the people you're selling to don't have the time to implement what you're telling them anyway. But yeah, there's a lot of...
Do you get clients from your personal brand?
Yeah, loads.
Because you started pumping that in like the past few months.
Probably like 30% of our leads come through it, I'd say. But we get clients from all over the place. We do loads of things now.
And do you do outbound now?
Yeah, we've done outbound from the start.
And you said you don't do any outbound at all?
We just try and treat an agency like an ecosystem. Like nothing happens in a vacuum. You wouldn't just run Facebook ads for an e-commerce brand and then not do anything else. You wouldn't just run TikTok ads for an e-com brand and not do anything else. So we just try and do everything. Like we need a new website. We're going to start doing massive content strategy, newsletters, all of these. Like it's like building a moat around your business as well. I guess a moat for an agency is harder to establish by default because it's kind of a productized service that other people can do. So it's like, how do you make the service better? How do you have a better track record? And how do you have like higher front end perceived value than other people in the market? I think that comes from doing it and like being everywhere almost.
I really think of it the same way. Like you gotta have this ecosystem of like stuff that fuels each other. And same with like, you need to build it to the extent that if people are looking for something like your service that you're providing, they cannot go in there without seeing your name mentioned anywhere, right? That's how like I like to think of it. And that's why, for example, for me with like I don't want to give all the sauce away because you have it too, right? But like you have different channels for different intentions, right? So for example, you have stuff like Twitter, LinkedIn, which is more for like prospecting, like reach to new audiences. You have Instagram for like more building the relationship and connection to people. You have stuff like YouTube or community or backend for people that are like really, really engaged, right? So there's like, you cannot only do one channel as like a personal brand. Same with like Alex Somosi. He did shit on every single channel.
Yeah. I think there's also different people. Like some people just won't buy from your ads. Some people won't buy from, like some people don't read their emails. Some people aren't on LinkedIn. It's like being everywhere. You reach the maximum amount of people you possibly can.
Quick one, fellas. You probably heard a few months ago I dropped an ecom course, a very fucking guru of me, but it's not that. I promise you, 0 to 1, how to start a brand from scratch with no budget, some budget, a bit of budget. Take your idea from a bedroom to reality to potentially 7-8 figures in sales, like I've done a few times, based on my 7 years of experience in the trenches and my current experience building my current brand, Space Goods. It's no bullshit, no frills. We've had like 75 people go through so far. Not a single person has asked for a refund. Plenty of people have actually built some seriously impressive shit. Covers every aspect of the business. Not just the front end stuff like most gurus on YouTube and Twitter are talking about, not just product, marketing, all that shit, but the real shit, the logistics, the back end, the supply chain, the customer service, the finances as well. This covers the whole spectrum, every part, 12 hours of video. If you're interested in scaling a brand 0 to 1, actually turning your idea finally into a reality, then click the link below, go check out Learn Real Commerce course and let me know what you think. I'll be glad to have you in there. Let's fucking go. What do you think about specializing then? Because you mentioned you decided to focus on CRO.
Yeah.
You seem to do fucking everything and you want to do more.
So we're specializing.
What's the logic in that?
For SAW, like we're trying to specialize to be like the #1 D2C agency in the UK by doing like broad scope acquisition and retention for e-commerce brands. Like that is a specialization. You just have to be really good at it to be able to command that position in the market.
What's the media buy and landing pages and creative?
Yeah, and then with email, SMS, because that effectively if you can do acquisition and retention, and then a bit of like we also bake into like that consultancy, so like forecasting, creative strategy, like a lot of like data analysis, and it's we don't do CRO and everything like that. Obviously, that's probably another thing you need.
For the record, it's running my ads as of 2 weeks ago, and we've halved our NCPA
in like 2 days.
So I'll put a referral link down below.
It took over. Yeah, you just have to be like we've specialized into a niche, and then we have gone broad. We're trying to be we're like the idea for our agencies, we're outsourced CMOs for the brands. So like a lot of e-commerce owners don't really want to be in the weeds of ad accounts, emails. They just want someone to advise on that strategy and then execute on it as well.
Yeah, that is true.
Whereas you have got more specialized. There's the position we've taken. There's probably more agencies doing what we do in terms of competition.
Yeah, definitely.
CROs obviously. CRO is a very specialized skill set as well, I feel, in comparison.
Yeah, it's a crazy blue ocean.
Yeah.
To be fair, about a month ago, I just looked at what I was doing and was like, hold on. We're doing all this shit with ads. I've not once looked at the fucking website.
Post-click, it's stupid.
Huh?
No, I just got that everything post-click.
Yeah.
After the ad.
So we started looking at it more.
So dumb.
And it's helping a lot. It's crazy. It's definitely something that I think people love broad, like just in entrepreneurship, but particularly in D2C, people love speaking about ad spend. It's not sexy or cool to speak about like split tests. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's because the stigma that's connected with it is that it's so complex and like so nerdy almost. It's same with like talking about high level media buying strategies with like, yo, I have an ad set with like 95% video view retargeting with like that social proof, and then I'm gonna get them to buy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like most of the people are like, they come from a data background. They don't come from the kind of psychology background, and I think that's why the main content you see about CRO is like really technical and really nerdy. And that's why I think for most of the entrepreneurs, and all of the entrepreneurs are shiny object syndrome driven to some extent, and they want to see something sexy, right? Like for you, it's not sexy if somebody talks about, you need a statistical significance with that A/B test, and then you have like 50,000 users in like the second variant, and then we have like a 3% conversion rate increase. You're like, bro, that's fucking boring. Yeah. But if somebody more talks about like a sexy landing page where you can drive traffic to, or talks about like the consumer psychology and how you can influence that, then it becomes like more sexy and more attractive for people to like actually do it.
I like CRO. I like even just coming up with ideas for it. It's fun. It's just like problem solving, isn't it? Like how to get extra like 2% here and there. What sort of your organisational structure now? I mean, when you've got to the size you are, like we've just gone through a big like. I feel like every time you add about 7 to 10 employees to an agency, you kind of have to rebuild it.
Fire everyone and start again.
Or just like put more tiers of management in, because you get to a bottleneck of management. Like you get like our COO was having too many people reporting into him, and his time was just too like dissipated across too much. So we've had to put like another layer in below him. It's like where are you at in terms of that structure?
So I have to give some shout outs to my co-founder, because he has been building one of the operations, so I can just like report what he has been doing. Nice. But he's a freak, and he's really smart. I have like a running gag that I like to call him an autist because he's like so smart in how he builds it. So when we were thinking about building the teams in the beginning, he was reading a lot about like how Navy SEALs structure their teams, because he is really in like Navy SEAL stuff and fighting and MMA and everything. So he always found it like really interesting how the army builds the teams, right? The soldiers and the structures.
Pretty sure I saw a picture on his Instagram with like an army.
Yeah. He's like in there, bro. He loves that. So basically the way that the agency is now structured is modeled after the army, which is you have a couple of smaller unit teams which are independently working from each other. So think of it as like we build this process, and we basically have like 6 people for the process. It's like one project manager for strategy. Then we have one data analyst in the beginning to analyze data. Then we have a CRO specialist who has like the sales psychology, consumer behavior background. Then we have designer and copywriter, and then developer. So it's always like a factory where you build a car. It's like you build a landing page or you build an A/B test or stuff, right? So it always goes from the project manager and then through the factory line. So that's basically how we build it. And now we operate with like multiple of these teams. So of like 6 persons. Mm-hmm. And then we basically put 6 to 8 clients on these teams, depending on like how big they are, how much we do for them, right? And then it's like they can all work independently from each other. So that's like the way that these like small unit teams are set up. And then the way of the whole organizational structures, like we have the, whatever you want to call them, like regular people, like the execution people. Then we have team leads above that. Then we have C-level above that. And now we are building like one managing director above that, right? And then it's like Lars and me kind of overseeing everything. Yeah. But we want to have like these kind of 4 levels in the hierarchy.
Nice.
Do you think you have to hire to grow in an agency or hire once you've grown? Because that's always the debate for me with a brand. I think it's a bit different with an agency because it's a bit more predictable in terms of the people you need to do certain shit, maybe.
You should always try and hire before you need them, definitely, because you've got an on-ramping period for the employee that you've got to account for. Like, they're not just going to start and then be good enough to just execute instantly. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for an agency, to be honest. We find it to be probably one of the biggest challenges is forecasting demand, because it's easy to forecast a demand for an e-commerce business because you have a really high amount of data points to do that from.
Yeah, true.
You've got a massive amount of traffic, you've got a huge amount of customers. We've got like lower volumes. It's also you're dealing with people making decisions on like a high ticket product service. So it's like that those decisions don't happen on like a predictable cadence. So we just get, like, January we had a really big month. February we had a really small month. And March has probably been our biggest month we've ever had as a business. It's just like, it's really hard to keep that like predictable and like know when to start. We're transitioning towards like an always on hiring process where it's just like we're interviewing people on constantly so we can just pick people up when we need them.
Yeah, like in the same way I would look at Triple Whale every day, ROAS, CAC, whatever. Are there like key things as an agency owner both of you look at? Because it's so different. I know nothing about it.
don't know about what would
Like,
be,
is there a North Star metric in an agency?
Well, I think our North Star metric's LTV. Like LTV grows the agency, not new clients. Like how can you keep and maximize client value over like a 12 to 18 month period? But then below that, it's like profitability per account, profitability per employee. And then on like a demand side, I focus on like leading versus lagging indicators. Like, I don't know, you might do different things, but I'll pass over to you after. We do leading indicators is like how many emails you send, all things you control. Lagging indicators would be sale calls volume or closed clients, which you do have control over that, but only by increasing your front end work. What you do like 2, 3, 4 weeks ago is gonna impact your like sales call volume today, not what you do today, if that makes sense. So we kind of track those, and then the other KPIs. What about you? I guess you probably do profitability per pod or whatever.
For me, the North Star metric is like the overall cash flow with the profitability and like the EBIT.
Yeah.
Obviously, because like with that I can grow the business, I can invest, and I have like free cash flow to invest. So that's like what Lars and I like to look at most. The KPIs, we have different KPIs based on like the hierarchy that they're at, right? So for example, with the executional team members, it's mostly about the KPIs on like how many deadlines are they meeting, how on track are the clients, and how are the results, like really, really KPI driven. Like, let's say we run 5 split tests a month for client X, how many of them were a winner, right? Like, what's the win rate, how much extra revenue did it get, and all that stuff. So those are kind of like the lowest metrics. And then, for example, for the team leads, the metrics is more about this one team lead has like 6 to 8 clients, how many are on track, how many are happy, how many have a high like net promoter score, how many have like good results, right? And then it's like different to like the C level again, right? But for me, the way that we are steering the agency right now is obviously with like the kind of profit cash flow, and then also the growth that we plan over like the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
Very different, isn't it? Well, I guess it's similar.
But it's like, for e-com, it's like you can increase your ad spend by 20%. And most likely your revenue is going to increase by around 20%, right? It's a lot easier. For agency, it's like 1 month you maybe acquire like 5 clients, the next month maybe 6, but then maybe in the first month like 2 churn, and the next month like 0 churn. So
how many clients leave you? You're probably not going to say that now, but like a churn metric, I guess. Like how many out of the ones that join, like in the lifetime of the agency?
We have a really low churn rate. We've our first 4 clients ever from 3.5 years ago still work with us. Which I should know that number off the top of my head, but I don't. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it's a low volume, very low volume.
And why do they leave if they leave?
We've currently started. It varies really. Sometimes
they went to AKM.
Yeah. It's been happening the other way recently.
That was a bad jab, bro.
Been happening the other way.
Funny agency banter.
For various reasons, depends on the service, depends on the business. Like there are.
It's also based really due to like the recession, like how they run their brands, right?
Yeah,
so for example, in like Germany, a lot of brands are struggling. So for example, like one of the first clients that we signed, they have been with us for like 18 months or something, but then like their whole business is going down due to the recession in the market, and now they're like cutting everything. They're like dropping like 2/3 of their team, and they're cutting all agencies and stuff. So it's sometimes also, a lot of people in the e-com think it's like, yo, so easy, I can increase ad spend, I can scale to the moon. Like some people have like a weird mindset or like growth or idea of like the growth and think it's just like linear, and they don't think about like the ups and downs.
That's what all the cap artists on Twitter think.
Yeah.
Because they've never actually, they've been doing it for about 6 months.
Yeah, and like they've never
I
don't want to say like a lot of the e-com founders, but some of the e-com founders, they live in like a fairy tale world where they just think, I just put in money here, I have this agency here, they're then going to take care of it and stuff. So the more sophisticated people they have the most understanding. So for example, like a Davey from the audio stuff, like people that have been in the game for long, they understand everything. They understand like ups and lows. They understand where to invest, what to do and stuff. But people that haven't been in the game for so long, or it's like the first brand, and maybe they've been a bit lucky and now they're at 8-figure run rate or something, they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, and they haven't paid a VAT bill and they're about to get fucking audited and ended. Plenty of those.
I think that
A lot of those on Twitter.
A lot of people did that through the COVID period as well.
It was literally a gold rush, and no one.
That's
now,
the thing.
now
Like a lot of
paying
people
the
have
price
just
for
been
it.
lucky.
Now, and especially now, we've seen that. Like a lot of people are getting squeezed on a net profit margin, and just like growth rates slowing down into the start of this year. So a lot of ecom businesses are like when you like look under the hood and if you do like an in-depth audit, and like you have a look at your COGS,
Like Neon Beach was an absolute fucking shitstorm.
There's like, there's a lot of businesses that I'll look at from an audit perspective. I'm just like, I just wouldn't even want to run this business. Not even mildly tempting.
Yeah.
Set up with like 4 or 5% net profit margin, like horrendously complex.
There have been like a lot of things I feel like in the past couple of years that made it hard for ecom brands.
Yeah, 100%.
Also stuff with
It's
like
really
the
fucking hard.
Ukraine-Russian war, bro.
Yeah, I think it's like the hardest business you can run.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing it properly. There's like this delusion again on Twitter from like a lot of drop shippers that think like 50% net profit is like a thing, but that's because they're not a registered company, so they've never paid tax. Like they probably don't fulfill half their orders because they're like grey hat no shippers. Like real brands, like if you can make 10% profit consistently, that's like good. Like look at Gymshark, they go on their accounts. It's a unicorn brand and they make like 8% net profit. Granted, it's 600 mil rev, but still.
Yeah, you can see it from a lot of the companies. I think there's been 8 IPOs or maybe 9 IPOs for D2C brands.
It's very rare.
I'm pretty sure, and the only one that's up on its valuation is Hims.
Yeah.
And that's because they have just ridiculous LTV. Allbirds, all of those big D2C brands at IPOs.
Yeah, it was just 2020 fluff.
What I see right now is like also, for example, when people have been working at McKinsey for like 15 years and now they go out and now they found an ecom brand. They have all of this like 15 years experience of like operations, financials and everything. And I feel like what you just said is that a lot of people on Twitter or dropshippers, they just think, I can just run some ads, create a good offer, I can scale this brand to the moon, but they forget that running a D2C brand is like 70-80% operations and like the back end stuff that you have to manage
no one
and
speaks
forecast
about.
and everything, right?
Because people
Which
don't
is
ever
like
speak
the
about
most difficult part.
it. Yeah, 100%. It's so hard.
Yeah. And then I also think the people who come from big companies into it also lack the other side. Like they can't do the fast moving front end. Like we like the more traditional business individuals that enter the space. You see that with VCs as well. Like the VCs, when they were allocating loads of money into D2C, they had no idea how to like audit a really strong business, and then just ended up throwing cash at loads of companies.
It's same with like Thrasio, bro. Like zoop.
Yeah, just like throwing cash at businesses that have like really good revenue, and then like just pull it back, and you're like, this business is horrendous. And you're set up well because you've got good margin. That's the key. I think like I've said this. I might have said this on another episode. Like the last 10-15 years of online business has been very like you'll get all of your leverage through front end marketing. The next 10 to 15 years is probably going to be operations, product supply chain, logistics is going to be the point, because without those you set yourself up for a more difficult.
And I think also like the obsession with the product. I feel like a lot of people are missing the obsession. They're like in it for like a quick buck or something.
True Classic Tees are a really good example of that. 200 million and they've just perfected this blank t-shirt.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Across every market. Like it's just a ridiculously good product experience.
Because like you can also go into the market, do like a quick cash grab, but then over time more and more customers are getting a product and seeing that it's like a shit quality or something. Yeah. So it's not like built for the long run.
I've seen quite a few people on Twitter arguing about like whether do you need a brand if you've got a very good product? Which I think is quite an interesting question. Can you just I kind of think you don't need a brand if your product's that good.
Well, how do you define a brand then in that context?
So you're That's a good question.
Because when I
think
say
all
brand,
the time it's always turning into a brand. Because
It's
like,
beneficial to have a brand, but
Yeah.
I think Essence Vault's a good example. I wouldn't say that's a massive brand at the moment.
yeah, I suppose like this brand is like, when people say brand, most people mean, and I mean, when I say I've built brands, I really just mean visual identities for products. An actual brand is way beyond that and takes years to build. It's the emotional association with a product, and that's way more than the product. It's like the community, the fucking experience.
I think it's net beneficial to always build one.
Yeah.
100%. Like, you're going to get better results if you do. But I also think
it's same with like the personal brand for the service business.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's like, bro, like this, I've been analyzing the way that Alex Hormozi did it a lot, right? And it's funny because I was watching like a 1 hour masterclass from him where he talked about like his business and stuff. And everything started with him having a consulting call with Grant Cardone. And Grant was putting up his IG and said, bro, obviously I'm like 10 times bigger because my input is 10 times bigger.
I've seen that, yeah. He paid
right?
and then he paid like 200 grand for the call.
Yeah. And then like he
You what, with
shows
who?
his like growth on all socials, and then he mentions and puts an arrow to like, this is where 10x the input, right? Of like how many content pieces he puts out.
Yeah.
He went from like 11 to like 80 or something.
Yeah,
like
a
TikTok
day.
short,
That was
TikTok,
stupid.
YouTube, Instagram Reels, everything, like IG live stories. And basically his following grew like crazy, right? And now he has a company acquisition.com, right? And it's, I think like the thing that people don't understand, it's basically a group coaching,
Yeah.
right?
They buy equity,
Yeah,
don't
it's
they?
like they get equity, but it's
30%
basically a group coaching of how do you grow your brand.
Yeah.
But like from the outside, everybody's like, yo, I want to work with acquisition.com because Alex Hormozi is such a big personal brand, and now he has like hundreds of offers of companies that throw money at him because he has been providing so much value. So I think like the brand / personal brand is always going to be a huge driver. And what I've also seen with that, you cannot measure that in like new clients, new leads, monetary or something, but like the network that you get access to and the opportunities that you get access to is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching that call as well. It's like a 35-minute video, isn't it, that he just uploaded?
Yeah.
And it was just like so sick. It's another one of those, I find this a lot, like things like that are just like so simple. It's like, how did I just not think of that? But then someone just articulates it to you. His content's like changed so much. I still watch a lot of his old content, but I don't really watch much of his new stuff. His short form stuff. It's just
the new stuff is like really beginner stuff.
Yeah, it's proper lean. But I guess that's when
He's very like Sam Ovens, I think. Sam Ovens came out of the fucking bushes like a few weeks ago. Because he went quiet for like 3 years.
Yeah,
but he's one of those guys that's just so simple and the opposite of Guru Flash, but is way higher level than any of the gurus.
Yeah,
and it just goes to show
But
it's like the same thing.
So with Sam Ovens, like I have the biggest respect for
impression
him,
of him.
But I feel like if you compare his content from what he did to what he's doing now, it like changed. Like he grew consulting, he went like 1 year away, 2 years away, he grew like long hairs and everything, and now he's coming back. He dropped consulting,
he did psychedelics, and then came back
the mastermind, he dropped the podcast, and now he's going in SaaS.
Yeah.
And now it's like new way of doing stuff. I feel it's more like fun playing around, right? From like how he portrays himself.
Yeah.
But like if you look at the old videos, like this monk like discipline, basically like every single old video from his coaching that's on YouTube, like the value is insane. But now like the new videos, it's like something happened to Sam over this period.
It's the same as Alex Becker.
He got rich and probably got lazy.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Alex Becker?
Yeah.
Bro, I love Alex Becker.
Yeah,
he's another one of those. Hormozi, Becker, Sam Ovens.
If you go to like 3 years ago in his YouTube library, Alex Becker's videos are insanely valuable. And now he just
like where he's at the whiteboard with like the mouse, like drawing some ugly shit and explaining like.
Then he just sits there and talks about crypto shit coins for like 40 minutes a day.
Because then he sell high rods for 100 mil. Like everyone. I think everyone's got a peak at some point, don't they?
Just like once you got to that point, it's just like probably just what he's interested in now, isn't it? Like he just doesn't need to do that.
That's why my podcast is getting shit. I reached the pinnacle at 7k subs.
But also,
now it's just a piece of shit.
Like he kind of did the same as like what Alex Hormozi's done. Like his content, he when he was putting that high level content out, his following was small. As he's moved to more mass market generalization, he's now got like 500,000 Twitter followers. Like to get to that sort of size, you have to generalize more to resonate with more people. Like we'd all enjoy consuming that high level content, but a lot of people would sit down and just be like, I have no interest in this.
No.
or can't understand it.
Yeah, it's like Ty Lopez, isn't it? He's like the ultimate mass market.
He's got
Even
bankrupt.
Gary Vee.
He's going bankrupt now, Ty Lopez, isn't he?
Is that true?
Well, no, his businesses, he won't
Yeah.
personally.
It is an interesting space. Like the simple people that know what they're actually talking about versus the real flashy guys, of which most people are.
That's the biggest sign of understanding something, I think.
Yeah,
is being able
100%.
to put something really complex into a really simple explanation. And that's a really good way to understand if someone actually knows what they're talking about.
So true.
Like the guy who used to blag your head on your calls.
Which one?
The
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, we're not going into that. Giving a 25-minute voice note to answer a one-line question. It's like, bro, just tell me.
Like confusing you.
Yeah.
Where do you want to, what's the, you mentioned that you have a kind of a 12 to 24 month roadmap for the agency now. Is it just kind of linear scale the service offering that you're currently doing? Or is there anything kind of, firstly, is it planned out that far, or like what
I'm gonna give you the whole rundown after the pod because I don't want to like publicly announce it yet.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we have like
Carl exposed on the Midnight Pod.
No, but it's like what I see right now with everything that we do is it takes a 3 to 6 month timeline for everybody to just rip it and do the same stuff. For example, with like Twitter, it's so saturated now, right? Basically, what I would say is that we have a roadmap what takes us from being like the kind of dominator in like the CRO space to like broadening this up. It's pretty similar to like Nick Shackelford, right? He's like the ecom OG, but and respectfully, has just a Facebook agency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like the way that the person brand is built, everybody respects him and he looks like the ecom goat for like everything, right? But like you started with the background of the agency. So basically our roadmap for this year is kind of to lay the foundation to next year really broaden what we are doing. And I don't talk about like we want to have other services, right? So it's always going to be super niche down CRO agency for like big brands. So we're never going to have any other services. But what we're doing like in the ecosystem around the agency with like, for example, the community that we just launched and SaaS is going to help kind of put that into fruition.
Nice. Yeah, I saw the community you launched. I've not actually hopped into it yet, but is that like I'm guessing that's a macro play to drive more business for the agency and some...
Not necessarily only for the agency, but the main frame, and I can say this because we've said this on like the other videos too, the community, basically what we're doing is we collaborated with like another guy for like the ad side of things and stuff, because I'm not the person to talk about media buying, creators, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I can talk about landing pages, CRO and all that shit, but not about like that stuff. So basically we have collaborated and we've built a community where we are just going to give all of the courses, products, videos away that the dropshipping gurus are selling right now, right? All of these.
So you're just illegally reselling people's courses?
No.
Yeah, reproduced it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like obviously our content, but like the value that you would buy in like a high ticket beginner course is what you get inside of the community for free. So like the whole purpose of the community is kind of like the e-commerce purge. Like cleansing the market from like bad actors, from like dropshipping gurus, from coaches, from bad agencies, because we're giving all of the value away for free. That's like literally the whole premise. So like people can go from 5 figures a month to 6 figures a month, just from the stuff that's in the course, with like creative rundown, media buying rundown for all platforms, landing page templates, product page, the whole store, offer, product market fit, retention, hiring, every single piece that you can imagine for free. Pretty similar to like the Alex Hormozi grow mindset. Yeah. You give them for free, they grow, and then they can work for you, with you. So yeah, it's like the foundation, the roadmap for like the major play.
Nice. It's a net beneficial for the community as well to cleanse.
Yeah, because it's like what you said, there are like so many bad actors and there are like so many big cappers in the community that we just want to do our part of kind of cleansing it.
Yeah, fuck, that's very true.
I think the space that will be a trend for the next 12 months is, especially I think there'll be a lot of agencies. There's always a lot of agency owners there's a lot of e-com store owners struggling. There'll be a lot of agency owners that I think in that lower bracket, like sub 50k a month, that probably wind up or can't get past that or cease to exist through this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like all of
recession every time it's like weeds out
all of these like agency owners that help brands with like 5k ad spend scale to like 30-40k ad spend, right? Like agencies that take a brand that does 10k a month and gets the brand to like 50 or like 100k a month. I feel like all of these agencies should go to like a high level, because as a brand, like if you cannot manage yourself to go to like 6 figures, then you shouldn't have a brand. That's kind of like my premise, because like you started the brand and you get it to like 10-20k, and now you all outsourced your responsibility to like grow it. Like how the fuck do you want to reach 7-8 figures if you cannot manage to get like past 10-20k a month yourself?
You also have, if you're not doing that, you have no ability to call people out on the quality of the work they're providing you either.
Like you don't learn anything, you don't have any experience or something.
It's not that hard to learn to media buy either. It is at a really high level, but to do
at a certain stage, yeah. Let's say you reach like 100, 200, 300k a month. Yeah, obviously, it's like, and that's why I think you should give the information for free so that the people who are smart can apply it. And then at a certain stage, they can work with the specialized agencies. Same with like Marin, for example, right? Marin from like Croatia. He's working with like Davey or like with Vessi and stuff. Like he has his place as like a really high level media buyer, but he only starts with budgets of like multiple 6 figures or even 7 figures a month like ad spend. And then he's like highly specialized with like his knowledge, and like he's supposed to be there. Right? It's not like he's taking an ad account from like 3k to 5k. It's like you got to be so fucking smart with like media buying that you can manage to scale an ad account at that size that like you have your place. Right? But it's like you're not necessarily providing value at like really, really low level. Like let's say there's a brand doing 20k. Why would you as an email marketing agency come and charge them like a 3k retainer to set up like a welcome and a banner and checkout flow? Right?
Yeah, definitely. That's where we're moving. I think it's hard to get to that position in the market when you first start. You have to kind of grow to it over time. We just increase our minimums like every quarter.
Who's the biggest client you got now? Tev?
Probably, to be honest.
Do you consider them a client, or are they your personal?
They work through. I work with them on them personally, but they use agencies as well. They're probably the biggest, in terms of revenue.
How about you? Like, how is it? How many clients? Well, I don't know if you can say that, but like, how is it split between? I guess you focus on bigger brands, but like, what would be the smallest you would work with, and what is the biggest you've worked with, and how does that affect how you work with them? Like, do you personally deal with the biggest ones and like more bothered about retention, or?
Pretty open question, but I'm gonna answer it like that. We have a pretty niche market, and our ICP is between 15 to 50 million a year. That's where most of our brands also are in, right? So at this like growth stage of 15 to 50 million a year. We have a handful of brands that are at 5 to 15 million, and we have a handful of brands that are at like 60 or over 100 million. But that's at both. It's kind of like this normal distribution, right? From our ICP to like some that are a bit smaller and some that are like a bit bigger. For example, like the Udi or Vessi, right? They wouldn't fit in this like ICP because they're like way bigger. I personally don't do the execution for any of them. I only sometimes jump into the strategy and if I really like it. So for example, with the Udi guys, I talk a lot with like Matt or something, right? We jump on calls, we talk. Or with like, for example, with Kino Buddy right now, just because I'm...
Yeah, same as me. Just
some like where you really want to do it. Yeah. So I built like the landing pages for like a new offer that we are running with Kino Buddy, but just because I really wanted to work on that, right? Not because I have to, but more like I've been watching him on YouTube like 8 years ago when I was 16, right? And now he's our client, and working on it together with like another agency. And now we were like, yo, let's run a new offer. And then I was like, yeah, I'm a bit the landing page, but just for like fun, you know?
Yeah, same as me. I'll dip into some things, some relationships here and there, just because I want to be there and I enjoy it. So I'm closer to you at the moment because I was like, because you just needed a bit of help. So I was like,
yeah, and you fucking got skin in the game.
yeah. But like, I'm working like closer with you, and then I'll just phase myself out of that once we're really moving. And like, it's just like an extra person or me coming in. It's like does help.
You can go sell more perfume.
No.
Do you think you are better than anyone in your team at the core skill sets, i.e. CRO and media buying? I mean, you're probably not, but like,
No.
Do you think you were originally because you have to be in the trenches to understand it, or what?
I think I was at media buying originally. Yeah, I think I am. My team are way better than me at media buying.
Is Chris better than you?
Yeah.
He's always running the ads.
Him,
Yeah, better be.
Jamie and Sam. I'd put Jamie and Sam as like those two against pretty much any other media buyer. Like,
Why are they not on my account?
Because they don't have any capacity, Keith. I can't just put them on your account. It's not how it works. But yeah, they're like all the people in my team. I see myself as more like T-shaped. I think there's a way that I'd explain it. Like
They have all these terms.
it's just
What
a
does that mean?
good term. It's like you have like knowledge across like a
Yeah.
large, like top level knowledge on like how to grow an e-com brand, and then depth of knowledge in a few areas. Like so, mine is probably more like operations, and processes, and then like acquisition is a broad thing I'm pretty good at, but like less actually doing it and more like putting that whole system together that allows us to incrementally improve acquisition results over time. But like I'm not someone who could jump in. I can jump into a TikTok account and probably media buy better than most of them, but I can't do it on Facebook because I just haven't done it in 18 months plus.
Yes.
But I know what a good Facebook metrics look like. I know what good content looks like. I know what like how it should look in an ecosystem and how to like critique its performance and put inputs into that account that will improve things. But yeah, they're all a lot better than me at what they do, which is good. It's what you want. You'll probably be the same.
Yeah, so because we like separated the process so much, like the people that we put in place are like all specialists. So for me, the only thing that I would say is like my strength is like the experience and then also like the psychology. Mm-hmm. Just because I've been like investing in that or like obsessing with that over like years and years. And that's like the only thing that you can exchange, right? So like the high level strategy of, okay, let's come up with like a new offer or like let's do XYZ for the brand that's like outside of like the CRO scope, for example. But we have like data analysts from like the military or some shit, and bro, like I don't understand data at all, right? Yeah. Like I can look at data and I can say conversion rate is good, or here you have a drop off or something. Yeah. But like the shit that they are doing is insane. So that, for example, or also with like the designer stuff, like I can design and I'm like a generalist at like a lot of things, but not like a specialist. Yeah. So they would outperform me in like all of those.
Yeah, that's a good place to be though. Like, you want to hire people who are just fundamentally better at you than the things. That's the whole part of growing a business, isn't it? Do you think?
Still waiting for him to speak. Oh, this dog, 2.5 years, he still hasn't spoke a word. So annoying. Yeah, I'm finally getting to that point. I mean, I've definitely always been a pretty good generalist, like 0 to 1. Like I always say, lock me in a room with a laptop and I'll scale to 7 figures, which I've done like 4 times. But my problem has been staying focused and then putting the systems in place to get to that next bit, because I'm like the opposite of you. I'm just not very organised. I don't have that head on, but I'm just really creative and fucking good with that shit. So
yeah, more
recently, yeah, done that with that new hire and shit. So I think you have to, but I definitely think it's beneficial to you, especially as a brand owner. You got to be good at everything. So then I also feel like I'm qualified to fucking tell people when they're not being good, because I've done it myself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, off my high horse giving feedback. But especially with media buying, this fucking dog.
It changes so fast if you're not in there. That's the thing. Like, it's a very fast-moving service. Like, what works, especially over the last like 12 months. So it's like if you're not doing it for 6 months, I could probably learn it again. Well, I definitely could learn it again if I wanted to. It's just like that is a really low leverage ROI task for me. Like, why would I do it? I'd use Tev as a lot of like, and the ecom group that we're building is like a test bed for like some things, and then if it works there, then it's worth then pushing to the team or sharing that with the team or sharing that with the clients. But I went into that because I was just like, I got to the point in the agency where like I kind of what you said, like the psychology is what you enjoy. Like my leverage in that business is not what I enjoy doing now. It's like I still do it because you need to do it to grow it, and I'm still like very involved in that business. But it's like I enjoy being deeper in the ecom businesses. But for me to just jump on client calls is such a waste of my time. If it's because it's just like, whereas the ecom group, obviously there's a bigger ROI on my time there because it's business that I have like vested interest in growing.
Because he pays you a fuckload.
And the brands we're launching, getting equity in the brands we're launching, so it's like worth doing. Because I also think that's undervalued. Like, you should still try and position yourself where you enjoy being. Don't want to be in a position where you're just doing.
You're like the opposite of these Twitter gurus. You're like very wholesome and shit. Like you said, you're not that bothered about. Like you just like working with good people. You're like a true, honest entrepreneur.
I guess.
You're like the picture of British fucking authenticity. Like, not that bothered about all the money. Just wants to work with good people. Does what he likes.
You obviously want an outcome. Like that's not fully true, but I do think that the marginal utility of money beyond a certain point becomes pretty low.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm not asked about buying watches. I actually think watches are just fucking waste of money. That's gonna fit. Just for me personally, that doesn't mean it's a waste of money for someone else. It's like very much.
I mean,
like,
they go up in price.
Yeah, true. That's the side of it that makes sense, I guess. But like, it's just not something I'd ever want to buy. But like, there's some things that I do enjoy spending money on. It's like.
What do you think? Are you motivated by money? I mean, everyone always is, particularly when they get started in anything. But then I guess, like you said, you realise maybe it has diminishing difference, you know, as the numbers get bigger or whatever.
I think you see diminishing returns, because if it would be about money, you would be good with like 10 G's a month. Because if you think of it, bro, like you could live at like 90% in the world with like 10K a month as like a king, bro. Think about like Bali or like Southern America, or like also almost most places in like Europe, right?
Also in London, this is a complete myth. Like I've just a side point. I've seen some don on Twitter, like 16 or some bullshit, saying you need like 100 grand a month to live good in London. I'm there living in London in a fucking £3 million flat, and I spend about 5 grand a month. Like, shut up, bro. Like, where do people get this from? It's just such bollocks. It's all cap.
So that's why, like, I don't. Like, if you would simply do it for the money, then 10K a month would literally be enough, right? But then you would still like work month on month. So for me, I really enjoy spending money. So I like spending money on traveling, on like nice clothes, on eating. I love eating. Yeah, eating. Bro, for me, like eating, dining out, I really enjoy that. I spend so much money on that. Literally like 50% of like what I spend a month is like for eating out.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like watches and stuff a lot. I'm really down to buy like one really nice watch and like one really nice car, but that's probably almost going to be about it, because what would you want to do with like 2, 3, 5 watches? But it's like I'm not like you, where I would say I don't want any of that, but it's like I enjoy, for example, looking at that. I enjoy looking at like, I bought these shoes, these are nice every single day. With a watch, I can imagine it being like that too. Like you're like, okay, I've reached a point in the business of success, and this is going to remind me of that every single day. And it's like nice to look at. If you think of the real utility, bro, I could run around in like H&M, it wouldn't matter, or Uniqlo clothes. If we just talk about utility, same with like eating. But if it's like about your mindset and your happiness, I think then it's a bit different, right?
Yeah, I'm very unique to each person.
Yeah.
I think getting a watch for milestone is cool, to be fair.
That's what I've always done, yeah.
Yeah. It's just different things for different people, isn't it?
Or you can buy a shitting machine for 4.5 grand and it'll cuddle you all day, every day. Aye, this little dog. Best thing I ever bought. What the fuck is this? Space Goods, spacegoods.com, Rainbow Dust version 1, my newest entrepreneurial ecom brand venture. I spent 6 months in the trenches building this shit from scratch. We launched 6 weeks ago. What's it all about? The next generation wellness brand with a long-term vision to essentially consumerize the pending psychedelic consumer goods market, which might sound absolutely ridiculous. We're not quite there yet. The market's massively illegal. But what is this? Rainbow Dust version 1 is an all-in-one mushroom and adaptogenic blend designed to unlock your supernatural self. Essentially, experience a sharper focus, sustained energy, zen-like calm throughout the day. It's an all-in-one powder, tastes like fucking hot chocolate, tastes delicious, works great, looks great, feels amazing. Essentially, the broader concept here was to legally imitate a psychedelic microdose and, like I said, experience those symptoms. You can mix it with anything, brownies, bake brownies with it, mix it with your coffee, have it without coffee, replace your coffee, put it into a protein shake. It's super fucking versatile, it tastes great, it replaced the stack of supplements I was previously taking, but you need to try this shit. It would definitely change the way you work, get you into that deep workflow. I obviously think that myself. Plenty of 1,000+ first customers think the exact same shit. It's not just a pretty packaging, it actually works really fucking well. Keto, vegan, all that good shit. Trust me, you need to try it for yourself. Let's scale this shit to the moon. Spacegoods.com. Get on your Rainbow Dust subscription and see how you fucking feel. Let's do it for the boys. Spacegoods.com.
Have you got anything? You said that you'd shut off camera. You said that you'd shut a couple of side projects down. Obviously, you've got the community. You've got some of the things that we're going to talk about later, by the sides of things. But like, is there anything that you're moving? Like, you're obviously optimizing the business for cash flow. Is that just being reinvested into those elements right now, or are you kind of moving that into other vehicles? Is there anything there?
No, we are reinvesting everything into the business. And what I was talking about earlier is that we had some side projects really outside of our like organization and realm, being like consulting, other agencies. We are thinking about taking equity in e-com brands and all that shit, like really outside of what we were doing. What we are planning on now, like the agency, just like scaling that, obviously is the exact same stuff. Community, for me, it's like another like social media channel, right? Because I put content in there. It's like running YouTuber stuff.
Yep.
And the SaaS, we've already been building a software for like the past 14 months or something. So it's basically still all kind of the same business, right? And it's not taking my focus away, right? Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, staying in one vertical, I guess. It's all within the same.
Super focus.
I think that's legit like the most important thing to actually be like massively successful long term is to pick a fucking vehicle and just get better in that vehicle.
Yeah.
Like you definitely can do different things within a realm. Like I've always been in e-commerce broadly or D2C. I mean, I'm not focused enough, which is, I'm very self-deprecating in that respect because I'm fucking first to call myself out. But like, I know so many dons that, like literally guys I used to live with that would be doing e-com for 2 years. Then they became obsessed with crypto. Then they were on to fucking Airbnb arbitrage or some bollocks. And it was always like they were just avoiding working hard rather than trying to actually build something legitimate. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause there's such a, again, it comes back to like the cap artists on Twitter. There's a big difference between like actual entrepreneurs who fundamentally is about building something and then like the money is like almost like a side thing. If you're like actually about it, like you'll do it because you love doing it. Then you get the ones that all they fucking care about is how can I flex in Dubai every single day, and it's all about cash flow.
But bro, you see it in like all of the areas of like one person's life. Either way, they're made for the long term and they have like real values and they want to build. Then they usually watch out for their health. They have like a long-term relationship. They have good relationships to their family, friends. They have hobbies, everything, and they're building one thing for the long term. Like these con artists, they churn through girls. They fly around. They flex. They go clubbing every other night. They pop bottles. It's like it's like how they do one thing is how they do everything. Yeah.
We've just spent the last hour just calling out people on Twitter, haven't we? Yeah. Without saying any actual names.
I think that is true going deep. You also have to have a bit of like self-awareness or like ability to analyse whether you are in the wrong vehicle. Because that's true. It doesn't matter how fast you try or how much time you put into something. If it's just a net, like low ceiling opportunity, then it's worth pivoting. But then once you've found that, it's like just going all in, like, or at least going all in within one vertical or one like niche or one like subject matter or domain expertise, and then you can kind of, or one brand.
That's what I'm trying to do now.
That's what you are.
Spend the next 10 years working on psilocybin. Because it just, I just think it's so cool if you can actually just build one thing for like 10 years. Like everyone I actually look up to has done that pretty much. But by definition, you can't do that when you're like in your mid-20s because you haven't spent 10 years doing it. So people just aren't patient enough, are they? With one thing.
No, patient.
I think they're really fucked by social media nowadays.
Oh, it's so true. Everything's fucked. Relationships are fucked. Like, we're probably going to be the first generation where there's like less humans born because no one settles down and does anything.
Yeah, like I said,
There's too much
like
choice.
You just mentioned, it's like every single area in life. Like business, you think like, oh, if I'm not at 8 figures in like 2 years, I'm a fucking brokey. Relationships, you're like, oh, I see like hundreds of girls on like social media with like whatever. It's like you almost have to put on these like what they put for horses. Blinders. Like long term, don't get distracted.
Yeah. Like long-term patience. That you have that saying, impatient in the micro.
Impatient in the micro, patient in the macro or something.
Yeah, it's a good saying.
I don't know if I came up with that, but it is very true.
It's saying one of your statements that stuck with me.
Yeah. Get that tattooed.
One of the few.
Yeah, legit. One of the few that made sense.
Yeah, SaaS pivot sounds interesting. I imagine is that just kind of productize your service even further, or is it catering for a different CP? Obviously.
What did you say? Software.
It's the obviously, if you don't want to kind of dig into it, that's fair enough.
I can kind of dig into it. It's basically in the beginning it was just to like make our process more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. So you've seen this with like Viscap. They've basically centralized everything that they're doing in like one tool. Like the Google spreadsheets, they like upload files so like the editors can download it. For us, it's like centralizing everything that we have been doing in like one tool, have a dashboard, have like APIs to Google Analytics, Shopify, whatever, just to make our life more easy, right? And now just like the next step is going to be to like make it available for brands and not just for like our clients.
Yeah, that's what we're probably going to move towards. We've done similar to that. Like we've moved it all into just a spreadsheet. There's a few. I find it harder to productize and almost like debate whether it's worth it doing it from like media buying as a service, because you see a lot of those tools that like SaaS tools for it that I've tested and aren't great, but I can see for your service how it'd be really good. A lot of people pivot.
I mean, for you, it would be like a attribution tool, maybe connected to something like project management, UGC briefs, video upload, download, editing, and everything. Yeah. And from the software, you can plug it into like the ads managers and stuff, just making like everything centralized and really efficient.
Have you started? We've not spoken about this in this pod, but it's such like a like trend topic. Have you started using AI in your business at all yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go down a rabbit hole, not have time to go deep. That's the problem with this episode. I want to go down a rabbit hole, but I know we'll be there for 2 hours.
We've started as well. How have you found that? Like, again, like, I don't want you to answer.
You writing my copy with ChatGPT?
No, I'm not.
I know some people are.
For like, I use it personally heavy for like ideation and just like, I use it quite a lot to be honest daily, but I can see how it would work really well for like coding, things like that. It seems to have massive
I feel like you can use it really nice to make process, like implode the time it takes to get something done.
Yeah.
I don't like using it for like high level stuff, high level strategy, but like imploding the time that you need to get something done. Mm-hmm. Like writing an article, writing a brief, getting ideas or whatever. But it's like, you still need to be in control of what you want to achieve and what you want to do. So people go into like ChatGPT, write me a LinkedIn post about how you can scale on TikTok. Bro, like the output is fucking bullshit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you can use it to like make everything more efficient that you have. But, and I think they're going to like optimize it over time. But right now, just use it to like make everything way faster.
Yeah, that's what we use it for. Like more to make... some people that I've seen have been using it to replace people, but that's like the goal. Whereas for me, it's like, no, upskill everybody on how to use it to increase their efficiency by like 30%. So we can then, each team member could potentially service another client because it doesn't take as much time to do things. But did you see Italy banned it yesterday?
Really?
Yeah, huh? Italy banned it as a country. Like just banned the further development of it, which is pretty mad.
That is crazy, fucking hell.
Isn't it?
Well, why? Why would you do that?
Because they wrote a massive open letter about like stopping the continued development of AGI, which is generalized intelligence, before they regulate it, because it could have, like, if they get it, I can't remember that principle where, like, it's a bit like computer software capabilities, like it's exponential, so like
becomes so smart it can just
it learns, and it could
teach
like
itself.
completely remove a lot of people from jobs very quickly if it gets to a certain point. So it will. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
our
pretty
industry
scary.
is actually a really like good example of one that's very exposed to that. Anything with high data points where you can automate that decision making process with something that's sophisticated. It's very high. That's why.
Yeah, media buying's a perfect one, really.
Yeah, media buying is a good one. Like, they've tried to do it because there are AI tools for it, but it's not sophisticated enough yet to have, like, it needs more context.
Has no nuance.
Or like, nuanced, and like it needs more context, like cultural context and like macro context of the store, and more data points beyond just the ad account data, because I think that's still important. When it gets to the point when it can have that, I think it can be like have a massive impact. Well, I really want to do some boring business in the next few years, just to own like a fencing company, so you can't get so no one can, so you can't
Come
get
full
removed.
circle.
No one can AI putting up fences.
Yeah, they probably can. They can robot them.
Yeah, probably, but it's interesting when you actually think out like 10 years further from now, it will be like pretty mad, the impact of that. Because it's pretty like reasonable to think that you could plug it into your website and it could just AI CRO for you.
Bro, so like
yeah.
one thing that's really fucked up with AI is that the what's his name? I think like the founder.
Sam Altman.
Yeah. So he was on an interview and the host asked him about like AI in the
I saw
future.
this.
And he was like, yo, the thing with AI right now is that ChatGPT is just operating on its own. So they limit it to not work with other AIs. But that's like the exponential effect that you've been talking about. Think of it as like you have one AI, it connects with other AIs, and like the exponential effect is insane, because like you tell it to do a prompt and it's not doing it just by itself, but it's like connecting with this network of AIs that can basically work together. So something like you tell ChatGPT, build me an e-com brand, and then ChatGPT goes to like this one image AI, this one other AI, this one other AI, and boom. And that's I think where it's like going really exponential. I did a tweet about like technology and all that shit the other day, and I was like, bro, in like a couple of years the real wealth will be living completely detached from technology, from internet, and
it's already kind of going there. There's like this brand called Unplugged. I actually know the founder. You've probably seen it.
Yeah,
and like that's one relatively small example, but like people going offline, it's like fucking electric cars, and it will get to the point where petrol cars are almost like a rare painting, and like a supercar will be like, people won't drive it, they'll put it in a like everything comes full circle. It's weird,
bro. In like 10, I don't know about you guys, but in like 10 years I would rather live somewhere like a farm in New Zealand without any technology, with my own like animals, on like plants, on like ecosystem.
Now you really sound like Twitter.
Huh?
Those off-grid like esoteric health Twitter guys.
No, but like not
shit.
because I want to tell anybody, because I just don't want to be attached and like reliant on that. You know what I mean? I just want to like live in peace. Not like right now living in a busy city with my phone 24/7, all social medias and everything, and you're 100% reliant on technology. Because what would you do without internet, bro? We would all be broke.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that whole like, it's just hard to think how it's going to change everything, but I definitely think people should. We've started using it. It's kind of terrifying when you actually start thinking.
I'm like, bro, did nobody watch iRobot?
Yeah. Like 20 years ago. Yeah.
It's the whole founding that company is pretty mad as well. Like Elon Musk put a lot of money into it on the basis that it'll be non-profit, and now it's a massive profit-based company.
He tweeted about it, I think, recently.
Yeah, they all put a massive letter together
saying it can't be. It needs to say democratized or something.
Yeah, they need. That was what he's saying. Basically, like thousands of people wrote an open letter saying that they need to pause it until they've regulated the progression of it, because if you just start disrupting industry at scale, like it completely changes like the makeup of society in terms of like loads of people lose their jobs.
Then you have to introduce universal basic income.
It's just like that can't just happen through like one company's decision making. It needs to happen at like a very top level. with like intent.
And that's like decisions that you make that affect the lives of millions and millions of people.
Yeah, and then like the future like roadmap of where society goes, which is pretty nuts.
All these lizard people making these decisions.
Probably worse for society.
I think it's.
You're gonna lose your job. You're gonna lose your job. You're gonna lose your job. I'll probably lose mine.
I think the jobs that will and the professions that will always be independent from that is where it's coming down to how do you call it, like interpersonal stuff,
Yeah.
like nursery,
Yeah,
or like
nursing,
like
healthcare.
treating children, or like teaching children, or taking care of somebody, or like
Yeah.
helping, like a psychologist or psychiatrist or doctor, or that stuff. Like everything where it's like really focused on like the human interaction. I think that's where you're always going to be ahead of robots and AI. But everything that's like really like data or something like that, that's going to be automated.
Yeah, which is kind of scary.
On that bombshell.
It's same with
We're gonna
like
have to
the
wrap up.
technology revolution in like the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Like people weren't doing the jobs anymore. They were just like kind of eye-keeping the machines.
Yeah.
Same with AI maybe in a
then it
couple
could
of
get to
years.
the point where it can
It's not about like you do the job anymore. It's like you oversee what the AI is doing and kind of like fine-tuning it.
I think then there is that test that they do where it could get to the point where it's so you can't, like, if you had it in front of you and it looked like a person, you wouldn't be able to tell it wasn't a person.
I mean, you see it already with like deep fakes.
Yeah. Pretty mad. It's like it could get to the point where you can't even tell, and then even that changes. Did you want to wrap it up there, Chief?
We're going to have to. We're on a schedule with this episode. We could go on about this all night. Final question is ask everyone. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you could give 3 bits of advice to your 18-year-old self, or even 16-year-old self, maybe in your case, being only 24, what would it be upon reflection?
It's funny, the first one I wanted to say is literally the one that you have on the poster. So
Yeah. You should say it.
yeah, always think big. Like you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. Like anything that you can see or think of or dream of, you can achieve, because otherwise like you couldn't envision it. That's like the first thing. Second thing would be to always have trust in the process, because there are like so many ups and downs in this journey, but at the end of the day you're going to achieve like what's best for you. And you know what I mean, with like trusting the process. And the last one would be to really focus on being happy with what you do and being passionate, because I feel like a lot of people start the journey of entrepreneurship because they want freedom and they want to decide what they do and money and everything, and they want to be happy and motivated and do what they love. Then they start, then they fall into a rabbit hole, and 2 years down the line they're like robots getting up at 5 a.m, cold plunge. Everything is checked to a minute. They're like money obsessed and they don't have any relationships anymore, don't spend time with friends, family, or themselves. So I think it's like really, really important to be true to yourself and also like stay in contact with yourself.
Beautiful. Point number 4 would be subscribe to the Midnight Pod. And as always, it's been a pleasure. We could probably go for 3 hours, as is every episode, but we have to go. Subscribe to the pod. See you in the next one. Cheers for watching.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.